Hi, I'm Stephen McCarthy. This is my wife, Cristina. And the miracle that God did for us is He gave us our beautiful daughter, Chloe. And in the process, He taught us how to hold on to His word and not let go of His promises.
The first time we went to Pastor Cam's house was because we hadn't been going to a church for a while. Not that we didn't want to go, but we just didn't find a church. We were church hopping, and we went there for the first night, and we felt like that this was our church. That was our home, and it was that night that he had prayed for us for the first time. It was our first night there, and that's when he prayed about something very specific to you that night, and God spoke to you that night.
Yeah, He called us up for ministry, and He had a word of knowledge for us. And the word of knowledge that He had for me was that the Lord was bringing me into a new ministry. And then He had a word of knowledge for Cristina, and He was praying specifically for her reproductive system.
Which I had never really met Pastor Cam. I think I'd met him one time before, but I didn't really have a relationship with him or know him. And he had prayed something very specific, and he said, he asked if he can put his hand over my abdomen area, and he said, I want to pray that any problems that you've had in the past, that they are gone, they're wiped clean, and they're made whole. And of course I got emotional because that was 2012. So about 2004, even years ago, I had a small a polyp removed from one of my ovaries, and I was never told I couldn't have children, but it was something always in the back of my mind, like I hope that one day when I have children, or that never affected the ability to have children. So when he prayed that, I was really touched by it, because he didn't really know me, and obviously that was God speaking to me through him, and I guess that confirmed also the word that God spoke to you about your new ministry that night.
Yeah, I never even knew about those issues that she had previously, but as soon as we left his house, I'm like the second we walked out at the door at his house, I knew that my ministry was going to be being a father.
It was about a month after we went to Pastor Cam's house. We found out we were pregnant, right? Yeah. And I did not have a doctor right away, so I went to my regular doctor before I went to go see the OBGYN, and they did the initial sonogram, and the doctor said that at the current time that the sac was empty. He said, but it's very common, very typical, right? He said, you're early on. We don't really actually know when the baby was conceived, but as of right now, the sac is empty, but we'll do some tests, we'll take some blood, and we'll have you back in a week. I went back a week later, and my sister was with me, and my husband was with me, both there, and they performed another sonogram. And by this point, we were hoping to hear a heartbeat and see something. And when I looked at the doctor, he had this very serious, stoic look on his face, and he said, by this time, Cristina, we really hoped we should have seen something. We should have heard heartbeat, or should have seen baby there. I don't see anything. And he kind of just put his head down. And I remember looking at my husband and looking at my sister, who looked very scared and disappointed. And I remember just looking at them and just smiling and saying, God is in control, and God is faithful, and I know I'm pregnant. I remember saying, I know I'm pregnant. Yeah. I know I'm pregnant. And he looked at me and he said, well, I just want to prepare you that if this baby does not form correctly, that we want to talk to you about the option of a DNC. I was like, a DNC? What's that? He said, well, it's a process where we go and we clean up. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, doctor, but I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant, and that's what I believe. I believe that I'm pregnant, and I'm sorry, you don't need to discuss that with us. So we left his office that day, and then we went back a week later. So I went in the office, they called me in, and as soon as the doctor came in and the nurse came in, then they had to step out. So I was like, oh gosh, I just wanted it it to be over, but I wanted it to happen. I wanted God to prove himself in that moment because I believed that I was pregnant. And so they came back, when they left the room, I just had another moment to pray, and I just said, God, I know that you're the giver of life, and I know that I'm pregnant, and if there's any reason why this baby is not to happen, that I trust in you, and I believe that you have what's best for us. And you make all things perfect and complete, lacking nothing, like the word says. He performed the sonogram, and I remember looking back at the screen. I could still see it, and it was empty again. And he kind of just looked at me, and he was like, Cristina, I'm sorry. It's empty. And so I had a peace that came over me. Of course, I was disappointed because I really believed that I was pregnant. But I remember just having peace, like this peace just overtook me. And I looked back at the screen again, and it was dark. And then I turned away, and I just said, okay, God, I trust you. But I looked back again, and I looked back again, I just saw a little glimmer light, a little light. A little light. And I said, wait, what's that? And then the doctor looks up, and he's like, oh, look what we have here. He said, I'm so happy we pursued this. But he said, congratulations, you're going to be a mom. There was a nurse at this doctor's office, and I remember the first time we went to the office, she was the one who was drawing my blood. And I remember saying to her again, I know I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant. So finally, we went back the third time, and we finally saw we heard the heartbeat and saw the baby. She even hugged me. She hugged me, and she's like, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. And then I said to her, remember, I told you, God spoke to me. I know that I was pregnant, and there was nothing that you or the doctor would have told me that would derail me from believing and holding on to God's word, the word that he spoke to you from a month prior at Pastor Cam's house, and what he spoke to both of our hearts. Mm-hmm. I remember after Chloe was born and I was holding her, the midwife called Stephen over because she didn't want to shock me, but she said, look at this. At the bottom of Chloe's umbilical cord, there was a knot, like a pretzel, tied. And she's like, this is a miracle. Mm-hmm. So that was, so many people have seen that early on and, been scared or had a high risk or whatever. They would be worried their entire pregnancy. But God was showing me even his power and how great he is, because Chloe was born perfect.
One of the most important things for us was actually holding on to the promises of God and holding on to the word that was spoken. And it was an encouragement all the way through that trial. And I thank God for my wife, because she held on to that promise and held on to that word. And it gave me courage to hold on to it as well. And I think because we had the power of agreement and we held on together, we see the beautiful miracle that God did. And this is Chloe, our beautiful miracle girl.